Ciao friends, my name is Joey. Today I'm working with some really classic bits from Joee James beads. I have 3 different bead mixes out here. This beautiful bright yellow one is called Illuminating. It's from their Color Trends line and it is absolutely stunning with the silver. I also have just a few things from their classic Market Fresh Mini Mix in Rainbow Water Ice. So I just pulled out like some yellow things from that mix, and in fact these are going to go in my project right away, so I can take these out and set aside this little dish and try to clear my mat before I start the project. And what I have in here are some number 2 crimp tubes and some little small 4mm jump rings that I made with my craft wire, and I'll just set that aside, but you know we're going to be using those. In this little pot I have some crimp beads. These are for flat crimping, and that's going to come into play with this illuminating mix when I get to the body of my necklace. There's also going to be a coordinating bracelet, and then the other bead mix that you see out here is this Market Fresh Mini Mix called Sugar Crystal. These are so beautiful and lovely, and I've already like made a little beginning of my projects, but I have to show you this chain. I am in awe of this chain. It's called Drama, and I mean, just look at this. It is engineered in the most amazing way. The 2 parallel chains that the diamonds are soldered onto are really tiny curved chain links that are quite thick and sturdy. And I have had a blast playing with this. It's so fluid and so soft and so amazing. I just can't say enough about this chain. So what you see here is a little part of the bracelet we're going to make. And I have removed the diamond and added a jump ring that I made out of that 20 gauge wire to the bottom link. And so when you do that, when you cut this chain, you have to lose a little diamond section of the chain. And what I have done is taken a little bit of E6000 glue and embellished 2 of the teardrop crystals from the Illuminating mix, and I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. I don't know how much this will spin around because this part right here is actually the pendant of my necklace, and I have just pulled in things from both mixes. I have this lovely rounded off square toggle set, 2 of them, also from Joee James beads. And so let me grab my little tube of E6000 glue and show you how easy this is. This reminds me of tile work when you travel, like Moroccan tile work, or even in Italy. I saw a lot of this in Hawaii where metal and other embellishments are like embedded in the tile or in the glass, and even though it's glued on the top, it does have that very exotic look. And this is going to be amazing necklace, avant-garde, interesting, unexpected, and truly jewelry art. So every little detail like that I can add is just making me so happy. So I don't know if the camera is showing you the facets on the teardrop here, but there is actually a diamond right in the center of this glass teardrop on both sides. And so I'm just going to get the teeny tiniest little dot of my E6000. You could also use the gel Loctite super glue here, but what I love about the E6000 is that I have time to get everything straight. So I'm just going to pick up my little diamond scrap and set it right in there and just push it down. It's a good idea to have a piece of scrap wire or a toothpick in case any glue oozes out, but I was really careful with my glue, so I don't even have any to clean up. But that is centered on there, and I'm just going to set it down and let it dry while we do our thing with the rest of the piece. So I'm going to start with the necklace. And I have already prepared this end with the jump rings, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So those little jump rings that I made, I'm going to need 2 more to get to the stringing part of my necklace. And 20 gauge jump rings 20 gauge wire does fit through the curb chain on this drama chain, but because curb chain has a little twist to it, you have to, you know, kind of find that sweet spot to get the 20 gauge wire to go through, but it does go. Okay, so once you have it in, you just want to close this really well, because bead stringing wire is going to go through these jump rings, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the chain. Just open my handmade jump ring and just wiggle it in, find that little spot on the curb chain. There we go, just like that, and close it really well. So the beginning of the pendant is done. I know it doesn't look much like a pendant yet, but I am so excited about this design. So the next thing I'm going to do is make some little components that are going to dangle from here. Now these, there were only 2 little mermaid glass beads in that water ice mix, so I want those, and these are going to go up into the stringing of my necklace. So I'm just going to kind of push these up, because when I start on the necklace part, those are going to do that. And so I have 2 links here of 20 gauge craft wire, and I'm just going to smooth and warm and straighten it. And I'm going to do a combination of simple loops and wrapped loops on my downward drops for my focal. So I'm going to start off with a simple loop at the top. And then I have just kind of sat here and played with the whites and yellows and silvers. It's so fresh and happy, and even like very cool. These beautiful little spacers were in the Illuminating mix. Were they in Illuminating? I've mixed up my 3 bead mixes, so now I can't remember where I found each thing, but I'm just going to create a little pretty little bead stack here. That's the one that needs to dry a little bit longer. And I'm just going to play with my stack here, and I think that I kind of worked it out with a share of star, and then from the sugar crystal mix there was just some little glass discs in there, and that is just such a pretty drop. And I'm going to do, I would like to keep this facing forward. I will add a diamond on the back of this after I get the piece all done. I really just wanted to show you how I did it, because it's so simple, but isn't it effective? I mean, it just adds this really cool dimension to an already really beautifully faceted bead. And then I'm just going to come here and do a wire wrapped loop on this end, and this is going to allow me to open this loop and attach it here, but also kind of secure this stack of beads where my teardrop is facing forward. So 90-degree bend and a normal wire wrapped loop here. Before I wrap this loop closed, I'm going to open it and add this little tassel. These were in the sugar crystal mix, and there's 4 of them in there, so if you wanted to use these on your earrings, to do earrings, you certainly could. I'm doing a bracelet and a necklace project with the mixes. I'm just going to close that loop now and wrap down to my beads. Okay, so this is where your orientation matters. So when this is hanging as a necklace, my jump rings are going to be going perpendicular to my mat. So my loop at the top of my drop needs to be going parallel to my mat. It's going to hook through this way, and that's going to keep my teardrops facing forward. So I want to finish this off so that this loop is like this, parallel to my mat, which will make this loop going perpendicular to my mat as I work down the drop. Let me show you what I mean. I know that like explaining that doesn't always work out so well, and what I'm going to do is just leave this tail hanging here and go ahead and connect this to one side, and then I'll secure my wraps. So far we are looking like that. And do I have this? It's still wiggling a little bit, so I'm going to come to this end and like snuggle those wraps in there just to secure this a little bit. Okay, so this is what it is looking like. I absolutely love it so far. And so my next step is going to be to take some of my white quartz bead stringing wire, and you can do this literally any length that you want. And I am going to come to one of the jump rings that I added at the top of the length of my chain, just like that. And I'm going to feed on 2 of these yellow crystals and then run it through the jump ring on the other side of the link. So it looks like that. From here, I'm going to let my pendant go down to the center of my bead stringing wire, and whatever length that is. I think I made mine about 20 inches. I didn't really measure. I just put it around my neck. And so, you know, my focal, or my pendant, if you will, it's a really unusual pendant, but it's now in the middle, and I'm going to let it kind of have that little bit of movement there. And I'm going to bring in my crimp beads. In fact, I think I'm just going to dump them out. I think I'll be easier to pick them up. And I am going to flat crimp one on each side, just a little bit above, leaving a little space so that, let me explain. Let me get it situated here and I'll show you what I mean. I want this to just move a little bit side to side like that. So I'm going to probably be easier to lay it flat on my mat and keep my center. And once you get started, you know, once you get this started, it will go much easier. The first one where you get everything in place is a little tricky. So I'm just going to bring this up maybe, you know, maybe an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to come in with my pliers and get over that crimp bead and just flat crimp. Just close it down. And now I can put my first bead, my mermaid glass. I'm going to have a mermaid glass bead on each side, and I'm going to just go side to side. I think that I'm going to do this a little bit random up the length of the necklace after I get my first 2 beads on. I'm going to try to center my first 2. Now you could, you know, try to do measurements, but when I do this, I am the queen of just winging it, eyeballing it, as they say. So I'm going to hold it. It's, again, probably easier to just lay it flat on the mat. And I could zoom in with my camera. I kind of want to make sure that you see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to place it and set that bead at about the same length. Like I say, if you want to take a little marker and you want to measure there, you can. But I'm going to eyeball it. And just get in there with your pliers. I'm going to use my regular chain nose pliers instead of the bent ones. And just get in there and flat crimp. And now I can add my mermaid glass on this side. And now for the stringing, I am going to work my way up the necklace and just randomly choose yellow. I'm going to use these. I'm going to go back and forth to the 2 mixes and just fill this up, but exposing my beading wire, in essence floating my, floating the beads so that they just look like it's called an illusion necklace, but they do look a bit like they're floating. And you can leave as much space in between beads or as little as you want. I'm not going to leave a lot in between my beads. I'm going to, kind of just let it show a little bit in between. So it's going to, now you can, here's the other decision you have to make for this kind of a project. Let me pull it up. You can put a crimp bead on the top and bottom of every bead that you add in. But on a necklace, it's really not necessary because gravity helps you. You're going to be wearing your necklace this way, so these beads have that stopper. But if you like the look of actually making a bead station and putting a crimp bead above and then moving up, you can totally do that. I do like the look of that, but I think that I'm going to just do one on the bottom all the way up on this particular piece. So you just keep moving yourself up, pick up another crimp bead, and choose another. Let's see, let me go into a white here, a little white crystal. And again, I'm going to look right here and see the space that I want, and just a little bit. And I'm just going to like mix up my whites and crystal and silver and yellow until I get to the end. Stringing this way goes really fast too. Like, it's really fun because before you know it, you're at the length that you want. And you can match up the sides or do them random. I think I'm going to do mine random. Let's see, maybe go for a little silver bling ball. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I think I'm going to take the rhinestone ball off, and I'm going to go for a crystal clear bead here with a crystal rondelle spacer. So let me get my bead crimped, and do a tiny crystal rondelle spacer, one of these tiny little bead caps, a crystal, and then repeat that in reverse. And on this one, I think I am going to do another crimp bead just because I like the silver to go down into the top of the crystal rondelle spacer. Is just going to give this bead station a little bit of a finished look. So I'm going to get in here and do a crimp top and bottom on this one. So it looks like that. And I am going to keep going and work my way up to the end and then repeat the same thing on the other side. Okay, this is so gorgeous, you guys. I absolutely love it. So let me share my stringing situation here with you. It is random on both sides and all the same components and sections, but randomly placed. I did 3 of the little star spacers stacked on top of each other here, and I just mixed the clear and the yellow and the white and the silver all the way up, just randomly, trying to keep about the same space in between, but not just not overthinking it, just letting it float up the beads. And I also embellished both sides of my teardrops, so when you pick this necklace up to put it on, it doesn't have a front or a back. Because of the toggle, you don't even have to really worry about right or left hand side. So it's a 2-sided necklace. So I am ready to come in with my actual crimp tubes, not crimp beads this time, and just add a clasp onto this. And I think I'll use my magical crimping plier on this piece, and I'll use my Xuron fold over crimp method on this piece. So if you don't have this tool or don't like it, or you're practicing one or the other of your crimps, I'll show you how I do it both ways on this piece. So I'm just going to come right here and feed on my crimp tube. And where is my toggle with, oh, it's right here. I already attached a jump ring to this toggle, and I'm just going to make a loop and come back down through the crimp tube. Let me get my fingers out of the way. Just a pretty little loop. It can really, on this, since there's no beads, you can really do it any size you want. I just want to make sure that it's not too small. I want my my toggle to be moving freely, and that's good. And I'm just going to put the crimp tube squarely in the middle of the magical crimping plier, close it. It turns the tube into a square with 4 pinched corners, and now you go in the opposite direction. Don't close the tool until you feel it is squarely in the middle. I just felt it go in, and once you know what that feels like, you'll get it right every time. But if you close down in the opposite direction before it's in the middle, you'll mangle your crimp tube instead of turning it into a little bead. So if you're working with this, I do want to go around a few times just to make sure it's really molded into a little bead and grabbing onto both wires. I already knew that I had a really good bead, but you do want to go around a couple of times. And when you take your tool away, it looks like an 11-0 seed bead, and it really is magical. And I'm just going to remove this tail. And what I love about this type of crimping is that I don't need a crimp cover. If you want this to be bigger in scale for your design, you can put a cover over it, but it's not necessary, and they're really strong. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side, just add a jump ring to my T-bar part and do that same crimp, and we're going to jump into our bracelet design. So for my bracelet, I only need a really small piece of my white 49 strand bead stringing wire, and I've chosen a couple of large hole spacer beads from the bead mix, a crystal heart, and a couple of yellow beads from the Illuminating mix. I think I'm going to make this little tassel my charm so that everything's coordinating. There were 2 of these tiny little rondelles or disc beads. I might use those when I make this stack, but what I want to do first is embellish the center of this yellow crystal the same way that I did, so that this will be coordinating. So I'm going to show you guys how I deconstructed this chain a tiny bit. I'm just going to come here and snip, like, see how I've lined my cutters up with the edge of the diamond, and I'm going to do that all the way around, and just make sure that when I trim this, I don't have anything sharp when I glue it down. So you do have a point there, but if you need to just like make it blunt, you can also take like an emery board, or I have a vintage buffing block that, you know, you kind of create a patina by scratching up the paint on metal jewelry findings, anything like that, but you just don't want to have anything sharp when you're creating this embellishment. So I have another little diamond embellishment, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now this crystal is faceted, and I don't know if you can see, but it has just a flat oval bit centered in the facets, and that's where I'm going to place my diamond. And on my bracelet, I'm only going to do it one-sided. And it's the same thing. I'm going to put a tiny little dot of my E6000 in the middle and place that diamond. Okay, I'm going to set that down and just let it sit up while we work on our connection of our bracelet. So I've prepared my bracelet on both ends the same way that I did for the pendant part of my necklace with the jump rings, and I'm going to take my bead stringing wire and run it through the jump rings like that, and then I'm going to get a crimp tube and, you know, make a loop. Make a little loop here, get my crimp tube on, and capture the other end as well in the crimp tube. And I'm going to make this a little bit of a larger loop than I normally would for, crimping onto a bracelet, just because I want to keep this looking good right here where my two chains are going to go to a point. So I'm going to do a little bit of an oversized loop here, more than I normally do. And this time I'm going to use my Xuron crimping pliers. This does not need to look like a little bead. It's going to hide inside the large hole bead. And so for those of you that are struggling with crimping, I don't know if you can see, but my wire is crossed inside the tube. And when you do a fold over crimp method, you want to try to uncross your wires before you crimp down. Just do your best. But this crimping method creates a channel for each wire to rest into before you continue folding it in half. So I have uncrossed my wires, and now I'm going to take this back divot in the magical crimp. I'm used that one a lot in this plier, and get my crimp tube right in that back divot where that tooth, when I press down, is going to fold, put a fold in the tube and separate the two wires. So I'm just going to close down like that. And now my two wires are each sitting on one side of the tube. And then I'm just going to work my way up, closing the tube. And you don't need to be super aggressive and smash the heck out of this, because sometimes you can actually break them. But it just looks like that. And now I can start my beading pattern here. So I think that I'm going to start with my embellished bead. Oh no, I'm going to start with my large hole bead. So I want to get to the stringing part. So look how beautiful that is. That large hole bead just gives this such a pretty finished look. It hides everything. It hides the crimp. It hides everything. And now I'm going to feed on this bead carefully because it's not dry, and get my cut end to hide inside. And I'm just going to stack a little pattern here, maybe a white disc, a little star spacer, another white disc. I'm just going to play for a second with my pattern. So that's what I came up with. It's really pretty. Now on this end, I'm going to do another loop and another crimp tube, and I really like the white bead stringing wire showing, so I'm going to allow it to be part of the design because I have white accents in with my silver and yellow. So I'm going to allow it to be part of the design. I'm going to feed on my crimp tube and loop my bead stringing wire back down through the crimp tube, and then try to pull it through a couple of beads so that my cut end is disguised. You know, it's cut off away from where my clasp is going to go. So I'm going to feed this back down through that bead. I think it will go through a few beads. There we go. And I'm just going to give it a little pull and create a loop on this end. Okay, and I have it my spacing right so that even though it's a very small strung and crimped section, it's not rigid. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now on this end, uncrossing your wires can sometimes be a little bit challenging when you have the beads on there. So, you know, just do your best. Okay, and now I can come in here really close and trim my excess wire, and it just has a really pretty, really pretty finish. And now I'm going to come to this end with another piece of my bead stringing wire and do this same thing to create my clasp. And I want to do another generous loop so that those are not too tight together, my two jump rings. And same thing that we did on the other side. It's pretty easy to uncross your wires when there's nothing in your way. And I'm just going to come right here and do another crimp. And same thing, I'm going to put my large hole bead on so that it goes right down to my piece, and then a final crystal to finish this off. And I have to trim my wire just a little bit. It's coming through that crystal. And just feed it back down through, and a final crimp here, and I am ready to add my toggle clasp. So same thing, just loop this back down through the crimp tube. And I can even go through everything here and just trim it off. Just a nice little loop there. And same thing, fold the tube in half and then complete folding it and trim. And on this type of a crimp, I do like to put a crimp cover. You don't have to, it's not wrong. You'll see plenty of jewelry in the marketplace where you see the fold over crimp without it being covered. But for me, I just think it looks a lot better to cover it. So I'm going to take a little silver crimp cover and snuggle it on top of the folded crimp just like that, and without being too aggressive, I'm going to gently close it over, like front to back, side to side, and close up that seam the best that you can. Make it look like a little bead. It's beautiful. So for me, that just finishes the piece so beautifully. And I'm going to come to this end and do the same thing. Okay, this is beautifully finished. Oh my goodness, that is so gorgeous. What a stunning bracelet. It's so pretty, and it's so interesting all the way around. And I'm going to do one final thing. I'm going to add this little tassel so that this coordinates with the necklace pendant. And I have a little trick for attaching my tassels, and I think I'm going to come to this end, and I have an oval jump ring this time. And so I'm going to open this jump ring, and rather than connecting my charm through any loop, through this loop or the jump ring, I'm going to put this jump ring around the entire circumference of the bracelet and then add this on. And I'll close this and I'll show you what that accomplishes. So when you attach your charm that way, this will never be kinked no matter which direction you clasp your bracelet, because it moves freely. It floats all the way around 360 degrees. And so no matter whether you pick your bracelet up this way or this way, your charm just moves beautifully. So it's just a nice little connecting trick. So this beautiful, sunny, happy summer, really kind of a summer set, is just gorgeous with the whites and yellows and silvers. And these are just classic items from Joee James Beads. You cannot go wrong with a Joee James bead mix, and I had so much fun playing with them. They just seem to go on forever. The little pots never run out, and they are just packed with interesting, fun beads, and it is just the most joyful way to get supplies and make jewelries. So open the description box under the video and use the links. That'll help you find anything that you want for your own projects. And I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.